Welcome in, Minnesota high school football fans. My name is Caleb. I'm here with some special guests. You may have seen them a couple weeks ago. I know we put out part one of previewing all of the 6A, all 32 teams in Minnesota. We got Caden, Coach Lance here along with me. I'm excited to get into this. How are you guys doing?
Doing well, Caleb. Excited to do a part two here. I know there's been some people that have been asking for it, and I'm excited for it.
Same, yeah. I got a whole lot of Stillwater and Mounds View kids hitting me up saying, like, where's part two? So, yeah, time to talk about the East teams.
And, just a little fair warning, we are not connected. And I think I told one of this, that we're not, connected to the high school league. So our opinions can be, we're not tied to be politically correct to any opinion, where I feel like a lot of high school media coverage is really positivity built up, and sometimes it can be false positivity where you're pretending a team's okay when they're really not. At least for me, I'm not going to fake in talking about teams. I'm going to be real. I think we've been real with some of these teams of some teams are struggling, and that's a reality. To ignore that they're struggling is kind of
we were pretty tough on STMA in part one. So
they got a tough schedule ahead of them, right? Hey, we
were there.
The thing about high school football is every program is probably going to be there at one point or another. And that's just kind of that's what makes high school football fun, because you can have a contender from one school be there, and then 5 years later they're considered the bottom of the barrel for that respective class, which just makes things interesting. And it's why I love high school football. But with that being said, we're going to talk about our opinions about the rest of these Section 3 and Section 4 teams that we didn't cover in part one. So here we go.
Yeah, no, that's a good disclaimer, Caleb. I like that. I mean, like I said, we were there. We went to Forest Lake. We played football for Forest Lake.
4 straight losing seasons.
Great school, but we were in the dark ages for football. And now they're back. Now they've had some good years. But yeah, I mean, we'll definitely talk about the teams that are in the dark ages here of 6A. So yeah, with that being said, I'll kick things off being the moderator here again, if you will. And we're gonna start in Section 3. So Section 3 got shaken up a little bit from this past season, and the first team that we're gonna talk about in this section is Shakopee. Shakopee is one of the two teams that are new to the section, coming over from Section 6, which is a really, really tough section, as we covered in our last edition. Some big news recently for Shakopee. They have a new addition to their defensive line from Laconia, Nehemiah Umbadi. He pairs nicely with their other defensive standouts like linebacker Andrew McGee and defensive back Blake Betton. And they also have a stud on offense in Judah Forsberg. They made a semifinal run last year in the playoffs, but lost to the eventual champs Maple Grove. My question to you guys is, can Shakopee run it back? And do we see them in the Prep Bowl again this year? What's your take? Caleb, I'll be passing it to you first every time here.
So. Well, I think as you see on the screen, I feel like Shakopee's going into this section, and at least right now, they're my favorite to run the section with kind of a lot of, and we'll touch on that, but I feel like a lot of teams are kind of in flux in this section, and I think Shakopee, coming off a really strong year, losing some talent, but also retaining some and adding some as well. I can't help but feel like Shakopee is going to introduce themselves very finely into this new section. I'm excited to see what they can do. I think they're headed for a really successful season.
You know what? Speaking of a successful season, Caleb, I'm going to drop a hot take about the Sabres. I think they should have gone undefeated last season and won the 2024 state title. And they did not, because of my 3 words for them. They didn't limit their offensive miscues. And I think this is kind of like the Achilles heel of the Shakopee Sabres. I mean, first of all, give all the world or credit in the world to Coach Betten. Like, I mean, he's taken a team that was a total dumpster fire and has basically built it into the Taj Mahal over there in Shakopee. Like, it's just incredible how he's turned that program around. I don't know if you guys remember, but like even before you were in high school, like Shakopee used to consistently have losing seasons, and now they're one of the premier teams in 6A. But going off like why I think they should have won the state title, like if you go back and you look at some of those close games they lost last season, like Prior Lake was a close game. They still won, but they lost 4 fumbles in that game. Wyzetta, close game. They probably should have won by a lot more. They fumbled 3 times and lost all 3 of them. Minnetonka, 1 fumble, 2 picks, and a whole lot of penalties, and they ended up losing that one. Blaine, only 1 fumble, 1 INT, and 1 turnover on downs, but, not the best performance. Mounds View, they didn't turn it over, but 8 penalties on offense, only 24 points. Eesh. And then obviously the big one was when they got to the state semis, you had to play Maple Grove. 2 fumbles, had 1 really bad turnover on downs, and then I can't get the big incompletion. They ran Waggle into the boundary. I forget who it was. It was the other A-back coming on the drag across, wide open at the second level, and it just barely went off his hands. I think at that point, Shaka was up like 14-13, and that could have turned the game around. But yeah, that's kind of my thing with the Sabres. Like if they had not shot themselves in the foot a little bit on offense, they easily could have ran the table last year. Your guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, they scored 7 points because they did have a kick return for a touchdown as well that game, if I'm remembering right.
Right so after they fumbled the opening kick return.
Exactly. And so if we take that out, 7 points in the semifinal game, a little, obviously it was last year and stuff like that, but this whole powerful like running scheme that Shakopee has, if it gets met with physicality like a Maple Grove, who has a ton of size, a ton of linemen and backers that are able to really be physical with them, you can stun this offense a little bit. I think that's kind of what happened that game. And not every team's Maple Grove, so this team is gonna look good against a lot of opponents in most, but it's really going to come down to who's their playoff matchup and what can they do when pressure's on. They fell a little bit short. Does that mean like they've very well? I'm one of these guys, like you can't be so like result based in sports. Like there's a ton of random events that happen, so we could very well see like if we go back to last year and do the game over 100 times, like there are cases where Shakopee would win them, right? But it's just a matter of like having the luck and also putting like the luck and then the skill together to get the win. Is kind of like you can't, some fumbles that happen and some other stuff, you just can't plan for that, and nobody does. But that's a lot to say that my favorite for this section is the Shakopee Sabres, adding talent too. I think this is going to be the best defense, or one of the best defenses in 6A, top 3 at least is my expectation for this defense. And I can't see what they're able to do this season. It's going to be fun.
For sure. Now, question, since I'm familiar with all these teams down south, do you think the Sabres are going to run into any issues with these teams being more focused on stopping the run? Because if you think about it, Lakeville South runs the power T, Lakeville North runs the power I, Eagan and now Rosemount run a flex bone. So you're seeing a lot of teams that are run heavy and know how to stop that system. Do you think that'll pose any challenges to the Sabres?
I think it will, but their defense is going to be able to make up for that. Especially like you might see a lot of rock fights with this Shakopee team, just because like you said, that's something that I didn't think of. But also I can just Uno reverse out and you'd be like, well, the other team's not going to score either, right? So it's going to be close anyways. And now they just need to, like like the triple option plays, the midline reads. It's like inside one mistake can lead to 7 points. And maybe that's all, like you just need 2 of those to win the game now that you have that dominant of a defense.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like going back to those fumbles we were talking about earlier, I mean, almost every single one was on either like inside or outside veer. There was like one on midline, and then counter option was the big one, which is like their go-to third down play. So if they just ironed that out, get those first level defender reads down, I mean, I think Shakopee could easily run the table in 2025.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think looking at that schedule over there on the right, I would say they have a favorable schedule. I think there's a really good likelihood they go 8-0 if they limit the turnovers, of course, like you're saying, Coach Lance, and looking at those key returners too. There's some big names, and obviously a lot of respect for Coach Ray Betton. So,
yeah.
Any other comments on Shakopee? Otherwise, we'll move on to our next team here.
I got one more weird comment as I was going through all their game film. So all those games, like the majority of those games I listed where they kind of struggled, were all on the road. Like Shakopee dominates at Vaughn Field, but anytime they were on the road last season, still won a lot of games, just a little bit more miscues than they typically do.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too, pulling up their schedule here. Yeah, that's closer games on the road for sure. We'll see if they do better on the road this year, what that looks like.
Lucky for them, they get South, North, and Rosemount all at home, which arguably they're three most difficult games. So
yeah,
Sabres drew the lucky card there.
Yeah, favorable road schedule here for them. So awesome. All right, let's move on to our next team here. We're going to go to the Prior Lake Lakers. They're the second team here that's new to Section 3, also coming over from Section 6. Last season, they lost to number 1 seed Mounds View by 1 point in the second round of the playoffs. So they're a competitive team here. It'll be tough to replace the production of their standout running back, Levi Eider, from last season, but they do have some key returners on offense, guys like Aiden Mabinda, Colton Gunderson, and their leading tackler from last season, Dylan Hawley. They're also known for having a legacy of stud offensive linemen here in Minnesota, and they have one again this year. There's no shortage of that here in Ethan Beckman. But my question for you guys is, how will Prior Lake fare in this new section come fall 2025?
I'm just chuckling because I was reading Caleb's line at the top, and I think we're both going to be pretty on the same page. So tell me what you think, Caleb.
Yeah, you guys can read. Get out of the mediocre category. I feel like we can see their team record for the past 5 years. Like that's exactly what it is. But I think and talking to coaches around the league, like their respect level of this program just on coaches and players is above mediocre. And I think that's kind of like the roots and pillars that this program has. I wouldn't be able to put a finger on why they've just been hovering around 500 for the past 5 or so years. Maybe you can, being a little bit closer to that scene, help me out. But I feel like Prior Lake's due. I thought they had a good chance of beating Mounds View last year in the playoffs. It was like, Mounds View, don't get a little too confident here, because this Prior Lake team is usually better than what their record says they are. And my goal for them is to just, finish above 500 for one season, and don't just do it barely, but like these guys have the talent to do it. Now they just have to actually put it in place.
Ooh. I'm going to drop some hot takes. So I totally agree with a lot of the stuff Caleb says. Honestly, Prior Lake should be in the middle of a state title dynasty right now. If you starting back with 2022, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. You've got Greg Johnson, Martin Wusu, Jade Abasiri, all D1 linemen, just absolute leviathans of human beings that can completely change a game in the trenches. And like Caleb said, they've kind of been hovering around 500. And it doesn't even go back just the past 5 seasons. You can go all the way back to 2015. Prior Lake has not had a better regular season record than 5-3 since 2015. I was barely out of high school the last time they won more than 5 games in the regular season. And if you look at every single season since then, 2015, 2017, 2021, and 2022, 5-3. 2016, 2018, 2019, 23, and 24, they were 4-4. I mean, even in the COVID shortened season, they were still at 500 at 3-3, 4-4 once you throw in the playoff matches. So, I mean, they've definitely been kind of in this complacent, mediocre area for a while now. And Caleb kind of alluded to it. Not entirely sure what's holding them back. I definitely have a few ideas. I think a lot of it probably starts over on the offensive side of the ball for Prior Lake. Like previous team we talked about, Shakopee, you can tell me what their offensive identity is. They're a triple option flex bone team. They love running the ball, and they know how to attack you. They'll hit you with rocket toss, waggle leads off of it, inside outside veer sets up their counter tray, and like it's just so well constructed. What is Prior Lake's offensive identity?
They like to run it.
Do they still?
The one, and I don't get to watch a ton of regular season games. In the playoffs, I got to watch like a little bit, but like the one regular season game I got to watch last year was Forest Lake in Prior Lake, and like it was, like most high school teams are run first, but you could definitely like tell that it was run more than pass, and so at least from like an outsider, from somebody up north, that was like my perspective on it. Of like, I kind of view this team as one of those like really run heavy teams in 6A. Now, is that right or wrong? Maybe it's wrong, but that's just kind of my perspective on it.
I mean, their identity used to be a wing tee, but it feels like they're trying to expand off of that. And you know what? I don't even mean this as a diss. I'm kind of getting like STMA vibes from their offense in the fact that they don't have a set offensive identity or system in place anymore. It feels like they're kind of doing what you would do in college football 25 when you're making your own custom playbook. You're just taking plays from all different playbooks, like in different teams, and kind of putting it all together. Like I did a breakdown of the Prior Lake Forest Lake game, the one you were talking about, Caleb, and they would come out in their wing tee, like their 22 personnel, but none of their run plays looked like each other. Like they do the jet motion across with the H, and then it's lead back to the tight end. If they do an orbit motion, it's buck sweep back the other day. Like, and speaking of taking plays, that's actually a Centennial play that they took. And then if they have wing strong and there's no motion, then it's tossed into the boundary. Like, so they have a lot of giveaways for what they do, but like none of those run plays I just talked about set each other up or look like each other. Like, again, going back to Shakopee, like if you told someone in 6A, hey, Shakopee runs an inside veer, outside veer, midline, and ISO, all four plays that look very similar to the untrained eye, would anyone be able to tell you they're any different? No. But if you look at Prior Lake, you can easily, like anyone could easily see, oh, that's different, that's different, that's different. And I think that's one of the things that's holding the Lakers back a little bit. Or even like, they're like, oh, Forest Lake's giving us a single high safety. They're stacking down in the box. They're giving us cover 3. Let's go into a spread formation and throw verts, even though that's probably not one of the strengths of that team. So I think it's just like you said, feeling out what kids you have and just picking an offensive system and sticking with it, as opposed to, I mean, because again, these are high school kids. It's not like Madden where you can just call plays and the kids just know how to do it and it works. You have to have a scheme in place and then work on the individual skills for those plays in your indie time during practice.
Yeah, whenever you got 3 running backs in the backfield, I just automatically, whatever else you do, I lump you into the run heavy category. But you bring up some good points. I think a change of scenery is going to help this team and facing some fresh meat, getting out of just a tough section. But yeah, like, I don't know. I'm excited to see where this Prior Lake team can take their record going into this 2025 season.
For sure. They got a good defense. I mean, their defensive numbers may not look the best over there, but I think part of that's also because of their offense. Some of the stats you don't see are how many 3 and outs the offense has and how many short fields do they give the defense. I think that's another thing that kind of biases the stats of the Laker defense a little bit, because Coach Gegenheimer does know how to get it done on that side of the ball. And obviously Prior Lake might have the biggest kids in all of 6A. I don't know what they do in the city of Prior Lake over there, but I mean, they got like
something
mountains
in the lake.
I think Ethan Beckman alone might be like, what is he, like 6'4", 6'5", almost 400 pounds these days? Like, oh boy.
It's crazy. Yeah, looking at that schedule, I mean, it's definitely more favorable than in seasons past. Getting out of that brutal section, I think is key for them. And hopefully, like you said, Caleb, to get a few games above 500 this season. They definitely got the talent, but they've also definitely been in that stage of being the best of the worst and the worst of the best. So All right. With that, let's take a look at some of the returning teams in Section 3 here. And Coach Lance, we're going to go to your team here, Lakeville South.
Oh, boy.
The Cougars, they finished with a 6-4 record last season with a 1-point loss to Anoka in the second round of the playoffs. A key thing to note here is that all 4 losses were by 4 points or less. This was a very good football team last season. Not to inflate your ego at all, Coach.
I don't have an ego. I'm, like I always say, I'm just a nerd that loves the game. No ego here.
Yes, you are. Yes, sir. But yeah, however, you guys are losing your quarterback, and it looks like your top 3 rushers from last season. Another interesting note from this offseason is head coach Ben Burke will be returning. He made the decision to ultimately stay at Lakeville South after initially accepting the Cretin-Durham Hall job. So what does the season look like for Lakeville South? Obviously, had some tough losses last year. In this section, what do you guys project for Lakeville South?
This is going to be interesting, especially having you here because I feel like when I was looking through these teams and doing some work, like Lakeville South and Lakeville North have similarities on where they are other than their names. Like they're both graduating their quarterback that was really good for them. And they're both kind of at this, I feel like they're at this like even stage where it's going to be interesting to see who can be like the top dog of Lakeville. Like when you think of Lakeville, what are you going to think of, especially like this season? Because there is a team every season that people think of when Lakeville is set, and it just depends on who's the better team in Lakeville that year, right? And Lakeville South has had more success recently than Lakeville North, other than last season, and I feel like Lakeville South is probably chomping at the bit to take some of that steam back, some of that notoriety that Lakeville North got for being such a good team last season. Just like Lakeville South, a ton of close games that were like right in their grasp that you just let slip away, right? And this was a team again that was way better than what their 6-4 record was last year. When we're looking at team records and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, it was a down year. It's like, no, it wasn't. Like they were a really good team, and they gave a lot of teams a lot of problems. Now it's just a matter of what talent is behind the dudes that are leaving to replace them. Just going on history, they're going to have them. Now it's just a matter of actually put it in place. And they got with Ben Burke and the coaching staff, like staying put for the most part. I think that's good. And, I think their offense is better than just like I thought it was, just like looking at it statistically and stuff like that. Like they produce a lot on offense, and that's kind of like their main engine. And, not that defense comes second because defense is important, but like the engine of their team, I believe, was the offense. Now it's going to be interesting to see, will their identity shift with so many people leaving? That is to be questioned, but I think they'll have a good season.
I like that. You don't have anything negative you want to throw my way about the Cougars?
Let me think. Go ahead. I'll think of something.
I won't be offended. I'm always open to stuff.
Coach Lance, go ahead. Give us your take on Lakeville South here.
Definitely. As Lakeville South, we got a really tough game coming up week 1 versus Mounds View, and we got a lot to do between now and then to prepare for that Mustang squad. So just keep chipping away in practice, be the best that we can, both on and off the field. And hopefully we have a good game against the Mustangs when they come to town that first week of the season for us. And yeah, kind of going back to
kill you guys.
Yeah, fucking Wheeler's gonna throw for like 500 yards.
Okay.
No, I don't think that'll be happening. But just like going back to last season, like obviously, we don't do finger pointing here at Lakeville South. We're all about, like, Coach Burke always pushes, like, whenever we have like a loss. For example, 2022, we were rolling, and then we had that week 6 last second loss at home to Rosemount. It was homecoming. that was really tough. We don't point fingers. We all look inside ourselves and say, what could we have done better? Like, and then you just go back and watch the film and you try and improve. Like our 2 playoff games last season, I was going back and seeing, where did I go wrong? What are things that I messed up? And watching the Wyzetta game, I realized they were trying to take backside hitches against us out of 3-by-1 sets the whole game. Their pass accuracy wasn't there and we got lucky. But then next week, you have Coach Wastrick and the Anoka Tornadoes with Peyton Podani. And, he's got Trey Borchers. He's got Afe Abekwe. They're slanging it all over us. And, I mean, just looking at those pass yards per game, I think like 90% of that might be Zach Welch on running back screens just from the playoff game last season. Kid was an absolute stud. It was really fun to watch those Anoka Tornadoes play in person. But, yeah, we're just taking things one step at a time. We got practice coming up here next week again, and just keep working towards Mounds View.
I got a question, not so much something negative. With Ben Burke doing this whole, committing to the Cretan job and then coming back, how, you can see that of like one of 2 ways. Be like, one perspective can be, oh, he wanted to leave us, and then the other perspective being like, he wanted to come back so much that he left the job that he committed to. Just, I guess, give me a vibe from like you being around the players, the coaching staff. What are you guys feeling about that move?
We're all about team, man. We're never about any individual within the program. We're all about we over me. And Coach Burke is just as much a part of that we as anyone else on our roster or on our coaching staff. Okay. And I can't really comment as for Coach Burke's personal decision. That's his story to share. I don't really know much about that. So.
I was just asking for the team vibe. Don't worry.
All good. Yeah, no, we always have good vibes at Lakeville South. We want to be competitive. We always bring the sauce. It's like my catchphrase with the kids. So, yeah, plenty of sauce on the south side of Lakeville.
You're going to let Lakeville North beat you again this year?
Like I said, we got a tough game week 1 versus Mounds View. We're focused on that, and
just gonna go 1-0
there.
Yeah, love it.
We can get to the Panthers here in a little bit.
We had to get more coaches on the podcast and just rip into them. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Yeah, looking at your guys' schedule here, you don't have the best non-conference matchups, it seems like, with Mounds View and Edina. Like, obviously that's no, Eastview and Park Cottage Grove. So
true, but I mean, kind of like Coach Spurrell said last season on Randy Shaver's podcast when they did the 2024 state tournament bracket reveal. I mean, if you want to be the best team in 6A, you got to play the best competition. Mounds View had a great season last season. We are very happy to play the Mustangs. Edina, Mason West is coming back. I still need to get a signed Blackhawks jersey, being from Illinois. So, maybe if we beat him, I can get that out of him. But, we want to play the best there is. And we have the chance to, especially looking through the rest of our section. A lot of run-heavy physical teams. And, come November, that's exactly the kind of team that you want to be and be battle-tested against.
For sure. I love that, Coach Lance. Yeah, viewing it as an opportunity, not a disadvantage. That's good stuff for sure. All right. Any last comments on Lakeville South here?
Go Cougars.
All right. Well, we're moving to the north. Lakeville North, the crosstown rival. Yes. It's our next team here that we're going over. The Panthers are coming off back-to-back 9-2 records and quarterfinal appearances the past 2 seasons. So they've basically had identical seasons the last 2 years. They're losing a lot of offensive production, including Riley Grossman, who I believe was a 4-year starter for the Panthers at quarterback. It's obviously not easy to replace someone who's been starting for you for 4 years. However, they have some studs on the defensive side of the ball, and defensive lineman Carter Crawford and defensive back Gavin Casey, both UMD commits, I believe, or at least Carter Crawford is. Do we see Lakeville North making a deeper run than the quarterfinals this season? How do we see them faring in this section?
I personally don't. When you have a quarterback that played for you for 4 seasons and is one of the best or the best quarterback in your program's history, usually the year after, I would say it's safe to say that you're going to take a step back. And for whatever reason, whether it's leadership, whether it's talent level, it's just kind of like this reset that almost the team needs, and like stepping away from this identity of such a good player in Riley Grossman. And Lakeville North definitely has like pieces coming back, and like they're gonna have talent, and that's one of the Lakeville things, that whether it's South or North, they're usually gonna put up a good fight against anybody, and I'm interested to see, like, this is one of the more intriguing. Sometimes, quarterbacks leave and they played 1 year, 2 years, but like with a quarterback that's been there for 4 years, to replace that, to kind of just like move on from that, it's going to be a process. If I had to choose whether they're going to repeat the same success or do better, I would say no, for the reasons that I just explained, but I've been wrong before.
Ooh, give me a lot of material to work with here, Caleb.
Oh boy.
Fire away, Coach.
So
I'll go over
the quarterback. I'll do the quarterback point first, because being a former quarterback yourself, I want your input on this. So when you had, like, I think part one, we talked about Blaine and losing Sam Shaughnessy, right? Such a huge part of their offense. He's running quarterback GH counter. He can throw the ball downfield. I mean, he is the engine of Blaine's offense. That's not quite the same case with Lakeville North. Like, if you look at North's offense, and I mean, I think is a reflection of Coach Vossen, one of the most underrated coaches in 6A. He may not be able to eat more plates of food than me at Northern Tap House Lakeville, but he's a darn good football coach. Is that Lakeville North runs the ball 80 to 85% of the time, right? Out of their I formations. If you think about like all these spread teams in 6A, like, you got your Anokas that like to go deep, somewhat Stillwater, former Farmington, Rochester Mayo. Like, Lakeville North is the antithesis of that. If their quarterback's passing the ball, it's off of a power pass or a bootleg off of one of their favorite run plays. Like, that is the heart and soul of Lakeville North, and they do that just as good as anyone. And obviously, you mentioned best rush defense in 6A. Again, Coach Vossen, a defensive-minded guy, very attacking defensive style. And I think one of the most underrated parts of Lakeville North is their prowl defense. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. So when they're in their 3-4, their front seven are all just like radaring around the front. And then it sort of makes it difficult to see where the pressure is coming from. And then right at the snap, a whole bunch of them just go and attack in different places. It just drives offenses absolutely crazy. If you watch where they stack the safety, though, that gives a little bit of it away. But yeah, I mean, I think the Panthers are going to take a step back, but not for the reasons Caleb gave. I'm actually going to say it's because of their strength and conditioning program. Like, if you look at Lakeville North last year, sure, they were 9-2, had a great season, but I think they led 6A in injuries, kind of like Minnetonka did in 2023. I think a lot of that goes back to their strength and conditioning program. On the south side of Lakeville, we're super blessed to have the best strength and conditioning coach in the entire state, maybe the whole country at the high school level. And we prepare our kids with body armor, and we consistently have some of the lowest injuries in football in all of Minnesota. Lakeville North does not have that privilege. I think they outsource it through ETS. So, I mean, they don't even have like a coach on staff at Lakeville North. They just have outside guys come in and sort of utilize their weight room. So I'd probably look at that as something that might be holding the Panthers back a little bit, and, might explain some of those key injuries they had last year. Because this team should have been another state title contender. I don't think they should have lost to Anoka in the third round of the playoffs, and they probably would have given Minnetonka a pretty good game if they stayed healthy.
Yeah, I guess in the fact of you pushing back to my quarterback point, it is one of the things where, like, if we look at the offensive rankings, it's not like they ran a lot, they did all that, but there was like a threat of passing. And
yes,
like, I was confident that if they did drop back, that it was going to be a good ball delivered for the most part. And like, they were able to move when they needed to. A lot of these running teams that they're not able to move the ball. Like, just like when they need something, when they need to go down and score. Like, I remember like Lakeville North and South, like that game, they needed a huge drive, and he delivered right down, just like passing the whole drive.
I got a bunch of those pass plays burned into my memory for life. Yeah.
Like, not a lot of quarterbacks can do that. And that kind of speaks to like the experience of him. Like, probably maybe his first or second year as a sophomore probably wouldn't have been able to do that. But like the growth over time, and then that kind of quarterback play like rubs off on the whole team. And that's kind of like the part that you don't account for. Like when you have a leader and a guy that's balling like that, it affects the whole team and makes everything else better. So now when you take that away, you first off have to replace that. But now, in my opinion, your whole team just got a little bit less confident, which makes you play a little bit below where you could. And I think that's kind of my main point in that argument.
Got it. Yeah, love hearing that input.
Yeah, I mean, starting as a freshman at a school like Lakeville North in 6A football in Minnesota is super impressive. Do you know anything about their starting quarterback, who that'll be this upcoming season, Coach Lance? Or
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't think we've had, like, at least I haven't had any contact with any of the guys on the north side. You know, you see them at Lifetime Fitness every now and then, but it's mostly just, hey, how's it going? Like in passing. So, yeah, we'll get to North when we get to North. But like I said, we got a tough game coming up week 1 with Mounds View. So, gotta prepare for that.
Totally. All right.
Very political answers for me.
I don't want Coach Vossen to come over to the other side of Lakeville sometime at night and get me in my sleep. So,
and eat more than you at the restaurant.
Well, that will not be happening. Anytime Coach Vossen wants to pull up to Northern Tapper, Dairy Delight, even Lakeville Brewing downtown, there's 0% chance he's downing more plates than me.
Oh, well, we're halfway through section 3 here. Let's take a look at the last half. Starting out here in the second half, we're going to go to Farmington. Farmington, their team that finished 5-3 last year with a first-round exit in the playoffs at the hands of Prior Lake. They're losing quite a bit of production in the trenches from last season on the offensive and defensive line, it appears. And throughout the past seasons, it seems like they've kind of gone up and down. I will say, I think they have some of the best football helmets in all of 6A. I like the Bengal look they got going on there. But what's the consensus on Farmington this upcoming season? Caleb, what's your take here?
I know we're on Farmington. Just going back to one thing you said about when you asked about Lakeville North's quarterback. Mason Eberly is the name that I have to watch. Apparently, he's a sophomore. That was one of the names that I heard. So just want to touch on that. It took me a while to find it. That's why I mention it now. But Farmington, yes, my statement is let's wait and see. Coach Lance has mentioned some of the schematic changes that are happening. Kind of made me question everything about this team and be like, what am I going to see? And if I don't know what I'm going to see, can I really have a take on you? Is it really going to be fair to have a take on you? I think I viewed Farmington as a stronger team than most last season, even with their record being what it was. Just, like a well-balanced team that, didn't have like too good of an offense or too good of a defense. They didn't have too bad of an offense or bad of a defense, but kind of just middle of the road. And I think the record kind of represents the season they had well last season. And now God knows what's happening in Farmington. I'm so far away from them that I definitely won't have an idea, Coach Lance, that you got on them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always kind of easy to see Farmington because the Farmington High School is built on the far west boundary of the Farmington School District. It literally is like bordering downtown Lakeville. I mean, it's almost Lakeville East High School. It's right there on our border. It's always hard to say with Farmington. I think some of their stats don't really tell the whole story, especially on defense. Because if you think about it, like, sure, it looks like on paper, they haven't given up a whole lot of pass yards. But think about who they played last season. Eagan does not pass the ball. Lakeville South, we're not big on passing the ball. Lakeville North doesn't like to pass the ball.
Pass the ball over there in that section. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get to the Wildcats in a minute.
This is a run the ball section.
Rosemount, exactly. You absolutely nailed it, Caden. We're just a run heavy section down here in section 3. And so, I feel like it's hard to say because Farmington I guess all time hasn't been all that successful against Lakeville South. Like in the 11 games we played against each other, we hold the 10-1 lead all time. And like, especially against our Power T era, it just feels like they haven't quite figured out how to stop the run. But even if you look at like when they play Lakeville North, they're not necessarily the best at stopping that power I. Same thing when they used to beat Eagan, but this past season the Wildcats got the better of them with the flex bone. So you never know what to get with the Tigers. I just find it interesting that they're redoing their offense of all things instead of looking a little bit more at the defensive side of the ball. But I guess we'll see. And especially with that new gun single wing offense, I mean, I'm going to have to... We don't play the Tigers until week 4, but I might have to watch a little bit of film on them before then, just see what they got going on. I'm tired of watching Osseo clips from last year to try and figure out what they're going to do, so...
Interesting. I think it's funny that you mentioned the geography of Farmington, because Caleb, I remember when we went to, I think they played Forest Lake in the playoffs. Gosh, well, Forest Lake, after we graduated, I remember going to this game with you to watch Forest Lake go play Farmington. I mean, it was the dark ages when we got ran.
That might have been, was that 2021 or 22? I feel like Farmington.
It would have been the 21 season.
Yeah,
it would have been
Farmington
that
had a pretty
season.
stout team then. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised their record. Yeah, I don't know. That was a good team, but just with the geography piece, I remember driving up to that stadium. I'd never been to Farmington before, and I was
they have a really cool stadium.
Where are we? Like, I swear we were driving down a dirt road. Maybe we took a wrong turn, but I just remember there's a dirt road, and then all of a sudden, off in the distance, you see the stadium lights, and I'm like, "What is this place?"
Yeah, no, they have a 6 stadium. I'm convinced that they tell all the local farmers to start putting manure down like Friday afternoon before game time. I swear, every time we go to Farmington, they got like some chemical warfare or something going on.
It's living up to the name for sure.
They do have a ton of farms. That is undeniable. But yeah, I mean, and you know what? Another thing about the Tigers that we haven't really talked about, they used to have co-head coaches, and I believe one of their head coaches is actually up with Forest Lake Rangers now.
Really?
I don't remember the first name. About that.
Last name is Sutton, though. Coach Sutton. I'm totally blanking on his first name, but he was a co-head coach with Coach Piper. So now, what's it going to look like in just a single head coach era for the Tigers? I am going to find out week 4, so we will see.
Interesting. We will see for sure. Kind of going back to like the Lakeville North quarterback situation, talking about Farmington reminded me of this. I remember when I was looking into this, trying to do some research on Farmington, I saw that like they have a quarterback that it looks like transferred to Lakeville North. So I think he'll be a sophomore this year.
I believe that North has him. You know what? Actually, that is something I know. I believe North has him playing running back. So we might see a starting sophomore running back and quarterback out of North on varsity this season. Who knows?
Yeah, it's like the transfer portal over there at North. At least QB's coming in. I don't know what's going on.
Them and Shakopee,
interesting to see.
But Shakopee gets all that NIL money from Valley Fair, so
right. Valley Fair bringing in the big bucks. All right, any last comments here on Farmington? All right, let's move on to our 6th team here in Section 3. We're going to go to the Rosemount Irish. The Irish, man, I feel like they had an interesting season last year. Reeling from a 1-8, I would say a very uncharacteristic season for the Irish. They have a recent history of making decent playoff runs, but something to note is 4 of those losses of the 8 were by 7 points or less. For me, I'm just curious if there is an explanation for Rosemount's performance last year, and what do we expect from them this season? Are they bouncing back or what? I know Coach Lance is chopping at the bit. I don't know if you want to take this one first, Coach. You can go
ahead. I will let Caleb go first. I want to hear an outside perspective before I drop some hot takes on the Irish.
Well, this will be an outside perspective, especially like the stats don't do anything, but they sure help a little bit. And just come on, 6A teams. We're not recording stats and putting them out for anybody. And it's not just Rosemount, okay? But it's kind of hard to draw some conclusions just because, there's only so many regular season games readily available. Coach Lance, you probably have huddle, but the rest of, most of everybody doesn't. So like, we can't go look at what this team was, what their strong suits was, stuff like that.
You know what? It's funny you mention that, because a lot of I've got a spreadsheet with all the live streams for all the 6A teams, and there's only, I think, like 2 on there that require you to pay it like a subscription fee for it, and Rosemount is one of those 2. So
they're hiding stats. They're putting their games behind paywalls.
Them and Adina is the other one that I found. So yeah,
the most secret team in 6A. Here it is, the secret weapon. Statistically, a top 10 defense last season. Not a very good offense. My question was, can they keep that like somewhat resemblance of a top 10 defense while upping their offense a little bit? I have heard that they do have some offensive talent coming up that's probably going to grow into some success there. But as far as I'm concerned, it'll probably be some young guys on offense. Maybe I'm wrong, because I'm an hour away and kind of going blind. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts.
Definitely. So whenever it comes to Rosemount, we have to, at least here at Lakeville South, all the stats, all the records, all go out the window. You never underestimate the Rosemount Irish. They're a very physical team. They're very well coached. And I mean, I almost want to call it backyard football. It's just like a slugfest every time you play the Irish. Ton of respect for the program. They've got a great strength program over there with Dr. Convoy leading things. They do a lot of Olympic stuff. Like, Rosemount does a lot of stuff right. And hot take, they should have been like a 2 seed last year. I mean, they easily could have been 5-3 or 6-2. The reason they weren't, as Caleb said, they had no offense. And I think that kind of also marred their defensive stats. Like, just seeing their points allowed was only 6, points a game was 19th. And I mean, a lot of their games were close too. Like, I mean, if you look at like Prior Lake, well, not the Prior Lake game, but like the Shakopee game, that one wasn't too bad. But like, Farmington was close, Mayo was close, Eagan was pretty close, Lakeville North was close. They should have beat Lakeville North week 2. They gave us a run for our money week 6. But the main reason they struggled, and it's kind of what I talked about with Prior Lake, Rosemount might be the worst case of having no offensive identity, at least last season. I mean, I joked about Prior Lake having the Madden playbook. Rosemount was way worse than it. Like, they're running pistol spread stuff. They're running like power T wishbone stuff. They've got flex bone triple option plays. They're doing power runs out of the eye. Just like all these mismatched schemes that don't go together and don't complement each other. And they're just being like Frankenstein together. Like, just like you're putting together a playbook in like College Football 26. I don't know. I mean, everyone was hyped when College Football 25 came out last summer. Like, I totally get that, but I don't know who's running the offense for Rosemount. Maybe they played that a little bit too much before the season, and that kind of translated over into their offensive schemes. But no, I think if Rosemount would have just chosen an offensive identity last season, they would have been a very dangerous team. Because, I mean, let's not forget, they only lost to Blaine by 2 points. Like, and that was a very good Blaine team with Sam Shaughnessy. Like, they easily could have gone way farther and been way better, but they were just could not get things figured out on offense. I got a few more jokes about the Rosemount Irish. So I was having a talk with Coach Burke spring 2024. I had a theory with Rosemount. I'm like, they're always changing their offense, and they always seem to copy the teams they lose to the previous season. We finally got the better of Rosemount in the 2021 season. All of a sudden in 2022, they're starting to run power T stuff. And we're like, that's peculiar. And then 2023, they lose to the 3 flexbone teams in 6A, Centennial, Shakopee, and Eagan, all in the same season. And I'm telling Coach Burke, I'm like, I swear if they follow their pattern, they're going to come out and run flexbone stuff. And he's like, no, they've got like pistol spread personnel. I think they'll do that. And sure enough, week 2 and week 1 against North and Eastview respectively, they're coming out of their flexbone. They're doing rocket toss, inside veer. And I'm just like, dude, but I will give the Rosemount Irish credit. They have addressed this issue. Their coaching staff went out to Harding University. I don't know if you guys are familiar, D2 school down in Arkansas, famous for the flexbone triple option. So they have addressed this problem. They're going to commit to a style that works with the kids they have. I mean, like I was saying earlier, Rosemount's always big and physical, and they got a mean streak over there. They will push people around and hit hard. They've got fast kids. And I mean, that class of 2028 that they got coming up is I mean, they might contend for a state title in these next few years. I could easily see like the 2026 Prep Bowl being a Moorhead Rosemount Prep Bowl. Like that's how big I am on the upcoming Rosemount Irish.
We'll take there.
But yeah, you combine their already good defense with love the Moorhead take. I know Caleb's big on the Spuds.
Oh, we love Moorhead here.
But yeah, no, like I said, ton of respect and a ton of credit to Rosemount. I mean, they identified, hey, we shot ourselves in the foot by not having an offense outside of a Madden playbook. Now they are going to have an offensive identity, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams. They'll be young this year, so they're probably going to start a lot of their sophomores and get them that varsity experience. But they're going to be scary good. Surprise teams this year, and then, like I said, they'll be contending 2026 and 2027 for sure.
Wow. I like that, Coach Lance. I'm grateful to have you on this show and get your perspective on some of these Southern teams, because I mean, I was just lost when I was seeing like what was Rosemount doing going 1-8? Like, what happened?
That's why I like doing this, because it like even for like when I was playing in high school, I didn't know like much about other teams like other than just like my little sphere, and it's again good to hear for us, and it's probably good to hear for viewers that just like getting an insider's perspective on maybe an outsider doesn't have.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like, that's why I started doing a bunch of my live streams. I used to ask our kids at South, like, hey, can you name any of the teams in the Metro East? Like, obviously, you guys being over there, you know all about that. Like, I think 3 kids in our entire program were able to do it. Funny enough, the team that always stumped them was Mounds View. Just for some reason, they could not figure out Mounds View High School existed. But I mean, it's just
they'll get to know them real well.
Yeah, now this season they will, yeah. But I mean, you think about it, it's kind of like just exposure bias. Like I think we've only played 9 games in our school's history against Metro East teams. 7 of those have come in the playoffs. Like, and the only 2 that weren't were against Forest Lake, and that was back in 2006 and 2007. So like, we've just never been exposed to those teams.
Yeah, that's good background to have there, Coach. I'm also grateful that Rosemount, they're honing in on a playbook here, because otherwise they'd have, with all those losses last year, they have 8 choices playbooks.
I hope they got a refund of that college football 25 offense.
College football is overrated. The game, at least.
Oh, there we go. All right, well, we got 2 more teams here left in Section 3. We're going to go over to the Eagan Wildcats. They're coming off a pretty solid season there in the number 2 seed in last year's playoffs out of this section. However, they did end up losing to Edina in the second round. Their record last season was 5-3, but a key thing to note here is that they'll be losing their starting quarterback, Brooklyn Evans. I believe he was in the All-Star game, and he's going to play running back at Mankato State, according to a little bit of research I did. They're another team that's known for the triple option and running the dang ball. It's like all these teams in this section have like Sandra Bullock in the stands on the phone with their head coach, just run the ball, Bert. It's like, oh my gosh. But so anyways, what do we got for Eagan this fall? What are we thinking? What do the projections look like? A team that, Caleb, we're probably a little more familiar with because Forest Lake's played them. And 2 out of the last 2 seasons, I believe. So
just a rock fight of a game last year.
Oh my gosh, like 7-6.
And the only touchdown Eagan scored, there is like an inadvertent whistle. If I was an Eagan fan or player, I would have been absolutely pissed that happened.
I think I saw that on the Forest Lake YouTube live stream. Like there was a touchdown, and I was like, wait, what's going on? There's like no hand signal or anything, and then all of a sudden there was no touchdown. Like I had no idea what happened on the live stream. I'm like, I guess
I was in the end zone recording. Yeah, it was. I don't know how the coaches kept their cool, because you just don't see that happen. But regardless, I think a big thing is like week 1 for this team going up against Shakopee. That was one of the things that I kind of like circled on my list. So like, we're going to tell like how good this Eagan team is going into, and Shakopee is kind of what they're going to be playing in these like teams that are just going to run the ball. So it's going to be a good test for their defense. And then also maybe not so much the offense, just because like, to be honest, I don't expect Eagan's offense to do much against Shakopee week 1, but that's not a fair bar to hold them to, just because, like I already talked about, I expect Shakopee to be a top 3 defense in the state. But I believe the score from that game is going to determine where their season's going to go. Like, if they just get boat raced and like, it's not even close. But we've also seen this Eagan team be somewhat competitive against teams that aren't the Edina Hornets,
Coach Lance, your take on that?
Oh, I mean, hey, look, I got a lot of respect for Eagan. I mean, like, the job that Coach Johnson has done up there is incredible. You think just back to 2019, they were 0-9. I mean, they were essentially like an old school Hopkins of 6A football back then. And you can just see, like, in the records over the years, he's just completely turned that program around. Eagan's competing with other teams. I mean, they've gotten sneaky good wins these last few seasons, like 2022. Shakopee was actually the 1 seed going into week 8 out in the West section. Eagan upset them at home, and that dropped Shako all the way down to a 3 seed. And then 2023, they finally were able to beat arch rival Rosemount. And then last year, Brooklyn Evans absolutely torched Lakeville South. So, I mean, they've just been stacking up better and better wins, and they just keep building. I think some of the stuff, like, offensively, they're pretty sound. I know Caleb's not a fan of their triple option offense, but if you, like, really look at what the defense gives them, like, their play calling is next to perfect with their triple option. Like, oh, we have an A gap and a C gap defender, inside veer over here. We have a 3 technique, midline over here. A gap's open, zone dive over here. Like, I think Eagan might have the smallest offensive playbook in 6A, but they know exactly where to hit you. As long as their technique is, like, on point, especially with their arc blocks, and maybe, maybe they need to throw in some switch blocks. Call Coach Benton over at Shakopee to work on that with your A backs and your wideouts. But yeah, Eagan's scary good. I think the one thing that might hold them back a little bit is their defense. Like, I know when I did my live stream breaking down the 2 Eagan versus Edina games last season, very good. You like Eagan's defense or no?
I wouldn't use the word scary good with this team. I don't know. I think we shouldn't be throwing around scary good that much, but go ahead.
So the thing with Eagan's defense, like in those 2 games against Edina, first of all, I don't know why you're playing man coverage into Edina of all teams, because they had Myers, Sweeney. Who's that other great receiver they had?
Strader.
Sorrell.
Sorrell too. I mean, they were just absolutely loaded. And I mean, just me personally, I probably wouldn't have played man coverage with 1 or 2 high safeties into kids that good, but it depends. If Eagan has the studs to do it, then by all means go for it. But yeah, and I guess my other note for Eagan is, they've been really successful within Section 3 these last few years. But when it comes to those cross-section matchups, that's when they start to fall a little short. And I think that's kind of been their shortcoming in the playoffs. Like, the last few years, they've had close games in the first round, but then once they get to that second round, like 2 years ago, it was against Eden Prairie, which, okay, we kind of know how that'll go. But like last year, ran into Edina again. They probably could have had a better shot than what they showed in that game. And I think they actually struggled against Osseo in the first round, didn't they? Like, scrappy Osseo team gave them a run for their money. Yeah, so I mean, and then I think you touched on it, Caleb. You were at that Forest Lake Eagan game. Eagan's not able to win those cross-section matchups. They couldn't. I mean, just looking at the last cycle, they played Edina and Forest Lake as their 2 non-section games. They were 0-4 in the last 2 years against those teams. So I think that'll be another step for Eagan to take. You start winning those non-section games, you'll start to have a little bit more playoff success.
Yeah, definitely an easier road to winning those cross-sectional games this season, looking at their 2025 schedule with Eastview and Rogers. So
we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the final team here in Section 3. We're talking about Eastview. Eastview. They've been a struggling team for a while now. And looking back on the MN Football Hub, it looks like they haven't had a winning season since 2012. So that's been a decent amount of time here. They did have a few 4-4 seasons in there, but they've been competing in the Maroon Scheduling Division for the last few years, which if you're not familiar, the Maroon Scheduling Division is they just take some of the teams in 6A that have been struggling in past years and have them play in a division against each other to more so even the playing field. Looking at their stats, it looks like they ran a 2 QB system last year. I'm not sure if that was due to injury or if that was by design or what, but or if they made a switch halfway through. But what do we think here about Eastview?
Not a lot.
Really fast before I get to Caleb, just fun fact with Eastview, obviously every team makes the playoffs, but since you mentioned they are a maroon team, Caden, they're the only maroon team in Section 3, so they're locked into the 8th seed in the state tournament. 3 out of the 4 available brackets for this coming season would have them playing the winner of Section 6, which I think in part 1 we all were pretty confident is going to be like a Maple Grove or a Minnetonka. So yay, Eastview. Okay. You get that lined up for you week 9, 75%.
I thought you were going to give them some good news.
We might get to some positives, but I just wanted to start off with get the thundercloud out of the way first.
Quite
prayers up for Eastview. Dang, that's brutal.
My statement was go 500 in the maroon games. Maybe, right? But my biggest goal is to just like improve one aspect. Is whether it's offensive run game, offensive pass game, defensive run game, defensive bat, like have an identity that you can like go to. And that's going to help. Like they couldn't run, they couldn't pass, they couldn't do a whole heck of a lot last season. And you kind of saw it play out with their record. Getting 2 wins against a couple, maroon opponents was good for them. Now the next step is, can we get a couple more? But really, when it's teams like this that are near the bottom of 6A, do you just want to see improvement? And maybe they could improve and also have the same record, but like they do have an offensive run game that they can go to, that they build up, or they can pass the ball. Just like one of those things is what I'm looking for this team to kind of develop, to be able to have something to kind of lean on when things get tough. But a dark cloud over Eastview, I would agree with that. Hey, lightning, it makes sense.
That was bad. That was stupid.
I agree with a lot of what Caleb says. Like, my words are, what's the plan moving forward? Because, I think this is Coach Buckley's 3rd season. Obviously, Eastview's kind of struggled. They've been a maroon team. Were pretty solid in 2023, took a bit of a step back in 2024. But what's the plan to get this team back up and running moving forward? Like, I know that they're one of I think there's only 2 teams in 6A that run a base 4-4 defense. And it makes sense in this season because they're going to play more run-heavy teams. Like you look at Rosemount, Eagan, now Farmington, and I don't know how they ended up with Eden Prairie on their schedule, but I guess that's another lightning strike for the Eastview. But I just don't think that a 4-4 scheme fits into a lot of like those spread maroon teams. Like think back to last year, Hopkins, Park, Cottage Grove, Burnsville did spread stuff. I think Roseville might have been the only one that didn't. Buffalo did, and it's like, well, that's 4 out of your 5 conference of games, and your defense is kind of a mismatch in favor of your opponents. So I maybe change into a 3-4 works, especially if you don't have as many big lineman type kids in the school. I really don't know. I mean, at this point, I think the best thing for Eastview would just be hoping that District 196 redraws their boundaries at some point, and some of the Rosemount kids get sent west to Eastview. I don't know how. I mean, this is almost like a college football like dynasty rebuild situation right here. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Caleb, you want to see improvement.
Steep hill.
Yeah, year 3 here for Coach. So you definitely I don't want to sugarcoat it. Like we said, like we've been here for as players, kids, as fans, as kids who growing up with the program. It's not a fun time when your program's like this. So coming into year 3 here, playing in the Maroon District, want improvement here. So hopefully the Lightning have a good year here and pick up some nice W's in the Maroon District. But with that, we're we're closing the door here on Section 3. We'll move into Section 4. Any closing thoughts you guys have with Section 3? I think between the three of us, it seems like it's I feel like there's kind of tiers here in Section 3. I think we can all probably say that Shakopee is probably the favorite here, and then we have your team, your Lakeville North, South, Prior Lake, Rosemount, Eagan. They're kind of in that next level, and I don't know. What do you guys think? Any closing thoughts here?
I think a lot of the games are going to end pretty quickly, just considering how run heavy all these teams are. Play clock's going to be running, game clock's going to be running. I mean, I might get extra reps in the gym on Friday night after the games, hitting some deadlifts because of it. So I guess we'll see.
Nice, let's go.
Yes, sir. Caleb, any thoughts here? Closing remarks.
Shakopee's going to run it. Run it up. Run it up. Can't wait to see it.
All right.
Yeah, in front of your face.
Right. Like I said, we got a tough game week 1 versus Mounds View, and then once that's handled, we'll move on to Shakopee. So
one step at a time. All right. So moving into Section 4, the only section that remains unchanged from last season and the last cycle of realignment, you could say, in 6A football here. And man, before we get into it, I feel like this is probably the most wide open. Well, you can make a case for Section 5 too, but I mean, this Section 4 is a wide open section. I feel like you got some good teams here, but I don't think there's not like a clear top dog here. So with that, let's start off with talking about Eastridge. The Raptors here, they're coming off a 5-4 season and a first-round exit in the playoffs. They have a really great athlete at quarterback in Cedric Thomas. He's returning to play for his senior year. He's a Gopher basketball commit, so great athlete. However, last season he really struggled with turnovers. I was checking the MN Football Hub. It looks like he had 7 interceptions and 5 fumbles. He's also losing his top target in Kyle Frent, who'll be playing for Wyoming this fall, it looks like. They definitely have talent elsewhere. But over the course of the last few years, they seem like they've kind of been a middle-of-the-road 6A team. Do we see them making a push here for the title here in Section 4? Caleb?
Hey, my statement is don't sleep on these birds. In my opinion about this section will get revealed as we go throughout this. But I feel like this was kind of a team that I didn't really think of initially, that after looking into it, I was like, I think this team has a shot to make some noise. And I think people aren't talking about this team enough. I feel like high school football is better when Eastridge is good. And that's a northern perspective right there, Coach Lance. But like Eastridge is kind of growing up was like a school that we looked up to as being like a really, really good program that you did not want to mess with. Like
they were in the
it was when Eastridge comes to town.
2015, they made it all the way to the state title against Osseo that season, didn't they? I think it was Coach Fritz's inaugural year, or pretty early on in his tenure.
I just knew when it was mid 2010s, Forest Lake kids were coming to the game to see how much they could lose by. It was like, it might get to 80. It might get to 80 tonight. You got to come watch. And I want to see the return of that Eastridge. I don't think we're going to get that dominant of an Eastridge, but a sneaky team that's going to catch teams off guard. I think this team, did they beat Lakeville North, or they took it really close?
They smacked Lakeville North. It was 41-17.
I couldn't remember the score, but I knew that they made a statement against Lakeville North. And I think that's kind of, what's the word for it? An appetizer in what we may see of this season. Not that they're going to be able to duplicate that performance as much. But if you think that this is just going to be Mounds View's section again, or Forest Lake section again, I think you may need to expand your site to see a few more teams, including this one.
I fully agree with that. I mean, you cannot sleep on the East Ridge Raptors, and they got some very quality, like even though their record may not show it, they got some real quality wins the last 3 seasons. Like we just mentioned, they upset a very good Lakeville North team last season. You look back to the 2023 season, they beat a 3rd-seeded Anoka team in the first round of the playoffs. Then they go into Minnetonka and beat the Skippers. And then we're like, oh, what is this? A 2-6 East Ridge team in the state semis? Like, what? Huh? I remember after we beat Shakopee in 2023, I was going around, I had the score, and I'm like, okay, boss, I don't know if this is right, but it says on Minnesota score feed that East Ridge just upset Minnetonka. And I mean, we were all celebrating in the stands. And then we actually have to go out to STMA and play against the Raptors. And it's like, oh, that's why they got this far. Like, scary good team. We were fortunate enough to get a blocked field goal at the end to win that game. But I mean, you can never count out Coach Fritzy. And even the year before that, 2022, they upset a generational Prior Lake team in Prior Lake, and then they took the eventual state champion Maple Grove Crimson. I think it was only like 24-17, like almost down to the wire. So yeah, you definitely cannot sleep on Eastridge. Here's the confusing thing that I want some of your guys' perspective on. Eastridge they're like the antithesis of Eagan. Eagan, we talked about, they can win within their section, but once you get those non-section games, they kind of struggle a little bit. Eastridge seems to be able to play with the best of the best, but then when it comes to having to face other Metro East teams, they don't quite get the same results. Why do you suppose that is?
I would encourage you to go look at his film. I have him as the 6th quarterback in 6A. I think he's really good. And although turnovers are an issue, personally, fumbles are overrated as a quarterback. I fumbled a lot my senior year, but like a lot of those you can't put. Now the interceptions, yes, but also there are some interceptions that are the receiver's fault and stuff like that. Without looking at his interceptions directly, I just know the talent speaks for itself. This dude's a stud quarterback, one of the best in 6A, and I think he's going to help his team really elevate and compete. Maybe, I said Minnetonka was going to win state. That's kind of my prediction, but who knows? Watch out, Minnetonka, week 1. Don't be thinking you're just going to run over this team, because you might be in for a surprise. Now, if they do take him seriously, I think Minnetonka should beat this team by a good amount. But if they run in week 1 thinking it's sweet, watch out. Don't sleep on the Birds.
Yeah, after that 2023 upset in the playoffs at Minnetonka, I think they'll probably take the Raptors pretty seriously. I would never bet against Coach Fritzy. Very smart man.
Yeah, don't sleep on these Birds. Yeah, I don't know if I would have an answer for your question, Coach Lance. It puzzles me. But I will say, Caleb, I want to say they had a good quarterback before Tomez stepped in. Didn't they have that Tanner Zolnowski kid?
I think that was wasn't that?
He's a big part of.
He definitely gave us some headaches in 2023. Yeah, that was
that recent.
Yeah, because Tomez, I think his last season starting was this past year, and
Gotcha.
Zolnowski, I think, used their quarterback for a number of years. I want to say.
I thought he was older.
No, I definitely remember he was the quarterback.
And he's a good player.
Yeah, he was torching us in 2023. I think we were his last high school game when we played him at STMA, but just absolute stud quarterback, dropping dimes out there against us.
Yeah. So I have no idea what the deal is with Eastridge, because they're like you said, they're a scary team.
That makes it even more confusing.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the game last year when they played at Forest Lake week 2, and they could have easily beaten Forest Lake. I think Mac Jerkovich had like a 60-yard run or something like right at the end of the game. If it wasn't for that, Forest Lake would have lost that game. So I don't know if they're just an up and down team or what, and they kind of lock it in once playoffs come around, but
yeah, it's just a bit of a head scratcher. You lose games to like White Bear Lake, but then you can turn around and upset Minnetonka and take Lakeville South to the wire. So it's like my only head scratcher with the Raptors. Do not underestimate the Birds.
Yeah, good team for sure. I think we're all on consensus there with that one. Don't sleep on them. Next team here in Section 4, we're going to move on to Stillwater. The Ponies are coming off one of their worst seasons in recent memory after going 4-5 with a disappointing first-round exit in the playoffs. They lost last year's starting quarterback, Nick Kinsey, as he's moving back to Ohio for his senior season, I believe. I However, the Ponies still have a lot of talent they'll be putting on the field this fall. They have arguably one of the best D lines in the state, as you kind of touched on with your who's the best defensive lineman in the state post Caleb. They also have one of the premier running backs in the state in Emilio Rosario Matias, and they have a strong O-line to block for him too. So my question to you guys would be, what do you guys think of the Ponies? Do you think they can bounce back this year and this section once again?
Yeah. Again, interesting team here, especially with the departure of Kinsey. Like his sophomore year, 8-3, really good. Then junior year, it was kind of weird, especially from like outside people looking at this top dog quarterback and being like, your team went 4-5. But I've responded to enough Instagram comments about that situation. But with your quarterback,
very active on social media from my personal experience as well.
With your quarterback leaving, it's a matter of who's filling, and if we know anything about Stillwater Pony football, that like a good quarterback's going to come in, or at least I'm going to assume it until it doesn't happen. And I think, Caden, you also touched on it. Like, I think this section is the section of like defensive linemen. We'll get to other ones as we go, but I think it's Andrew Olson and Afoye, or hopefully I'm not butchering Afoye. Yeah, I'd say that's the right pronunciation. I'll give myself credit. Hopefully. But like these two,
we'll be hearing the name a lot this fall. We'll get
right. These two are in contention to be one of the best D-line duos in 6A. Carter Zoller's a really talented receiver, and he's like, when I was recording a couple of their games, like that dude's big. He's got size. So they have pieces to go around whoever's going to step in as quarterback. I've heard Jack Runk as the possibility of like coming in here and replacing Nick Kinsey. We know we don't have to talk about the Pony lineage of quarterbacks that have come in and have taken over the state, as really good quarterbacks. Not just a matter of they kind of have a lot of pieces surrounding that. Who are you going to put in that place? And it's going to also depend on where they line up in the playoffs, what they do in the regular season to set themselves up to have a successful postseason.
Coach Lance, any thoughts to add there on the Ponies?
Oh, I got a lot of thoughts on the Ponies. My 3 words were Lakeville North's offense. We were kind of talking about how Lakeville North, Stillwater just lost a great quarterback, right? They've had good quarterbacks for however many years. And as I was watching a bunch of Stillwater film from last season, I noticed they got away from their spread offense and they started doing a lot of 21 personnel I formations. They did that, but then they also tried to do spread stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, which system are we going to go with here? And that's kind of my big question for this coming season. Like, obviously, Emilio might be the best running back in the class of 2026. He is ranked number 1, isn't he, Caleb?
He's up.
It wouldn't surprise me.
He's a really good running back for sure.
Very good running back. I think if you get like I-back sets or like what Lakeville North does with some of their 13 personnel double slots and then run bootlegs off of that, you showcase Emilio. It sets up bootleg to alleviate and kind of supplement his game a little bit. It won't be too difficult for opposing or for whoever they put in there at quarterback. Usually you're going to get teams that stack a safety down in the box against I formations. So you're probably going to get single high safety with cover 1 or cover 3. Makes it even easier to prepare for with a young quarterback. I think that would probably be a good game plan. But, I haven't seen any Stillwater 7-on-7 footage. I don't know what offense they're going with. That's my first thing.
It was interesting.
Stillwater.
I've something to add on to that. So Nick Kinsey's sophomore year, it was spread. Like they would dabble in the I formation, but it was like mostly the Nick Kinsey show if they like gave him the keys. And then I felt like this, like at least from my perspective, they like took the keys away from him in a sense and kind of like you have a really good running back, and it almost felt like they were trying to feature the running back more than the quarterback, and it kind of put them in maybe an identity conflict, and they passed the ball more than I thought they did. just like based on the eye test, but the passes looked a whole lot different. The offense looked a whole lot more different than
a lot more
the
play
sophomore
action
year.
as opposed to just like gun drop back quick passes.
Right. That was, I don't know where that came from, but like you're saying, it's going to be interesting to see. I would lean more towards they're going to lean more like, that's why I have his name on the screen, right? Because I feel like they're going to lean more run, especially with a quarterback that's not going to have any varsity experience.
Definitely, yeah. And I think Stillwater's run I formations forever. Like I was watching the 1984 Prep Bowl. Funny enough, it was between Stillwater and Burnsville, if you could believe it.
Wow.
But I mean, Stillwater was doing their I formations back then, still doing the same 3-4 defense. I mean, the Ponies have been around for a long time. I think they actually have one of the oldest rivalries in Minnesota between them and White Bear. I think they've played over 100 times. Like it's pretty impressive.
Wow.
But yeah, and then there's also, I know Howie Johnson talked about it in your interview with him last year. They get that scary Maryland eye when they get to the goal line. 32 personnel, double tight, 3 running backs all in a row behind the quarterback. They got some good stuff over there. You know what? I got one more thing to add to the Ponies too. So they always seem to kind of run the table in the Metro East, but then when it kind of like with Eagan, when it comes to playing outside your district, things start to go a little bit of awry. And I think that also kind of like, again, with Eagan, that gives Stillwater a little bit of trouble in the postseason. They can win 2 playoff games, but then, once you start to get to cold weather games in November, you're playing that state quarterfinal, battle-tested teams, the Ponies kind of simmer down a little bit.
Well, they'll have some early tests here out of section with Maple Grove week 1 and Shakopee week 3. Thankfully, both home games for the Ponies, but that's one of the more brutal non-section
that might be as brutal
opponents I've seen. So, yeah.
Coach DeBoer's got his work cut out for him. He'll get the boys dialed in, and Ponies will get back to it. So we'll see how they do.
They got Park sandwiched right in between those 2 games too.
I don't want to say anything. We'll keep going. All right, boys. Third team here in Section 4. We're going to take it over to Forest Lake, the Rangers, Caleb and I's alma mater. As everybody in Minnesota knows by now, Brad Biscow and his staff, they've turned around Forest Lake. They're coming off a 7-3 season this past year, but they have yet to make it out of the second round of the playoffs during Biscow's tenure. In each of the 3 seasons, they've gotten first-round wins, but nothing more. They'll have a strong senior class led by Gopher commit Howie Johnson, and pretty much all their major offensive production is returning. Is this the year the Rangers make a bigger run?
Let's take a step, Forest Lake. We got this in us. I know we can. Now, Forest Lake bias full well, yes. But after like seeing Mounds View and like Sampson, Olson leaving, I was like, Forest Lake, like this is just wide open for Forest Lake, and this should be a walk in the park. Now it's not going to be a walk in the park. Just in doing more research in Mounds View, and not only Mounds View but Stillwater. Even though Nick Kinsey's leaving, you also have other teams that are going to challenge, and I think one of the things you mentioned it, not getting past the second round. That's kind of been like Forest Lake went from not good to Biscow being like we are good, and now they've just had this roadblock in the first 3 seasons of not getting past the second round. I feel like Forest Lake has not had a starting quarterback that came back for a senior year from starting junior, getting all that experience. This is going to be the first time in I don't know how many years. They kind of had it a couple years ago, but not really. Connor he's been in the system. He's learned everything from Biscow, and this is kind of like this is it. I kind of felt like for Forest Lake, like if it's going to happen, this is going to be the year to run it, because I know next year they got people graduating. So, not the last hurrah, but like this is the real deal. Forest Lake, like this is the year for Forest Lake to become real if they want to. Now it's just a matter of can they take it is my question.
How real are we talking? Sell me some Forest Lake Rangers stock here, Caleb.
Okay, you say sell you. I don't know if I am confident in this team going and beating some of these South teams until like I see it. And that's like from a Forest Lake fan, like as somebody who wants to see Forest Lake have success. I can't, like, I'm not going to tell you that we're just going to like be real after I've seen us hit a real wall, not a close wall, like it was clear that we just were not able to compete. And, like maybe things could have went different ways, but like when a score gets to what it is, it's not by accident. And hopefully that adds fuel to the fire for these Rangers to answer back this season. And it should give them motivation going into the season to like, I bet there's people that don't see this Forest Lake team as real. And I don't blame them for, like you want to be this contender, but then you lose to Blaine in that fashion. People are going to look at you a certain way. Like, who are you really? Are you this team playing these opponents kind of, ducking a little bit, and then you get matched up against a team that is playing in one of these other sections, and then you get hit in the face with a brick, and you're like, whoa, what was that? So I wouldn't be able to necessarily sell you, but I want to live it first before I sell. Now, if we get past round 2, and depending on how the regular season goes, like I see this as a strong regular season team for sure. Most definitely. I can't sell you on any like deep playoff success just because I haven't seen it. That's no knock to Forest Lake, but I can pitch you on Maple Grove deep playoff success because I have seen it. Right? I can pitch you on some of these other teams because I have seen them do it. But I think it would be irresponsible of me to pitch you a deep playoff run when I haven't seen it, even if I am the biggest fan of Forest Lake, and I think like Mac Jerkovich, I know Forest Lake guys think that he's the best running back in the state without a question. And Howie Johnson, one of the best, if not the best D lineman in the state. Like these guys, they have a ton of talent on this team, not just those two, but throughout the roster. But can they sum it up to we're not even asking for a state title championship, but let's get this monkey off our back, this round 2 monkey, and let's maybe make it to the bank. And I could very well see that as a possibility. I'm not going to sell it to you, but I'm just saying that could be something that we look into and be like, would I be necessarily like stunned if that happened? I wouldn't be, especially with the team that they have on their roster.
For sure. Yeah. You know what? You're talking about how far the Rangers can go. Let's lay out a roadmap. Well, before I lay out a roadmap for some of the stuff, because you mentioned unknowns, I got to give Coach Biscow a ton of credit first. I mean, just looking at the last 5 seasons for the Rangers, you just see like there is a clear turnaround starting when he took over. And you can just, even watching any of the Ranger live streams on YouTube, he's so animated. He brings the energy. He just seems like a great guy. And I mean, it's clear that Forest Lake has bought into Coach Biscow. Like they're getting the results they want to. Now we're looking at taking that next step, like Caleb said. So I think the first thing for the Rangers, you got to win the Metro East and earn that 1 seed. So I don't think we've touched on this yet, but the Metro East, which feeds into Section 4, is the only section that has 2 maroon teams, which means, and for those that don't know, I think we talked about this previously, you always are going to play a team outside of your section in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. That's just how the State High School League has the brackets set up. So if anyone out of the Metro East is a 1 seed, they're guaranteed to play a maroon team. It's going to be either Eastview, Hopkins, or Coon Rapids, just by default. Those are the maroon teams in the other section. But if you are a 2 seed, you do not get a maroon game. Like I know, Caleb, last time we talked about STMA potentially being a 7th seed in Section 6. I mean, you might see the Knights. We just talked about Section 3. Maybe you get like an Eagan or a Farmington type team over there. And then I don't even want to think about who the 6 seed might be up in the north. I mean, I wouldn't want to see like a Rogers and like a Champlin Park or anything like that. Those are all pretty scary teams come November or playoff time. So it's very important that the Rangers run the table weeks 4 through 8 in the regular season and lock up that 1 seed. I mean, they almost did last season. It came down to that tiebreaker with Mounds View week 3. And, that's just how important any given section game is. And then I think even like looking at the brackets, they got a pretty favorable like path in the first 2 rounds. Because if you're a 1 seed, then instead, like last few seasons, they've been a 2 or a 3. Last year, you get nice win over Buffalo, but then you run into the 3-seeded Blaine Bengals. That's a tough out. Year before that, Rangers have a very nice win over Wayzata as the 3 seed, but then you run into the 2nd-seeded Lakeville North Panthers, and obviously we know how that went. So I think just winning the 1 seed is probably the best roadmap possible for the Forest Lake Rangers, and it just shows, I guess, how much can they lock down weeks 4 through 8, because I easily think they can beat any like Eastview, Coon Rapids, or Hopkins. I think Forest Lake can probably beat any of those 3. And then the second round, whether it be a 4 or a 5 seed, I like Forest Lake a lot more in that matchup than I do in a 2-3 matchup. And then that will get you up to the state quarterfinal. And then your highest seed you could play then is a 2 seed, maybe a 3 seed. So I guess we'll see what happens. And if the Rangers can do that, they're in US Bank Stadium, most likely against Maple Grove or whoever the favorite is out of Section 6, maybe Minnetonka.
This is like a graduation year for Forest Lake. Like they're seniors, they really want to go up to this next class of 6A, and now it's like it's really up to them. Are they going to take it? Are they going to do the things necessary to graduate to one of those teams where you're like, okay, that's an upper echelon team? Or are they going to flunk the grade, and are they going to stay put where they are, where they've graduated from like, where they were before B. Scott took over? Like everybody respects the Rangers now, and they're going to beat up on the bad teams. But now it's that second level graduating of, can they make it into the top tier of 6A teams? And I guess only time will tell on that.
Very true. Excited to see the Rangers this season. Also, one closing thought with the Rangers, if you want to do that while we change the graphic, I almost forgot. We talked previously that Forest Lake's like school enrollment is declining, right?
Yes.
Because right now they're tied at 31st in 6A for the lowest population, like athletic enrollment, with Andover. So by the 2027 cycle, if that pattern continues, I don't know if Coach Biscow will want to opt up, but we may see Forest Lake go down to 5A at that point.
On the table down there.
I know that. I know there was some speculation of like Forest Lake going down to 5A, of people talking to people around the state.
They're definitely on the watch list.
It obviously didn't end up happening, but yeah, even more impressive when you take into consideration what B-Scout's done with that program. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Can't give any more praise possible to Coach B-Scout. I mean, he's just done such an incredible job up there. Really excited to see the Rangers this season. Earn that 1 seed, make the playoff run, Rangers. Let's see it happen. Yeah,
I totally agree with you, Coach Lance. I think those last weeks, 6, 7, and 8 are going to be key, ending with an away game at Mounds View and an away game at Stillwater. Stillwater kind of scares me a little as a Forest Lake fan, knowing that they have such a good defensive line, and I think that's the most questionable part of Forest Lake's team is their offensive line. So that'll be interesting.
Hit him with the 2 speed options, get out on the edge. That's usually the gap in Forest Lake.
Scout's been utilizing that, so –
Oh, that was nasty last year in that game. Yeah, the outside linebacker is usually the one like not as sound position on a Stillwater Ponies defense. So any edge runs, Coach B-Scout knows that. He took advantage of it last season, so he'll find out where their weaknesses and take care of business.
He's definitely built an offense catered towards having more of a weaker offensive line, so that's for sure. But we spent a lot of time on Forest Lake there, but I mean it's one of the teams we know the best, so that's just how it's going to be. Moving on to our 4th team preview here in Section 4, we're looking at the Mounds View Mustangs. They were the team that earned the 1 seed out of the section last year, and they ended up finishing the season with an 8-3 record and a quarterfinals appearance. It was their best season since 2019. They are returning one of the best athletes in the state in Godson Rufus Okamhanru. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Hopefully.
But what's that?
Nailed it, hopefully.
Hopefully. It seems like Coach Moberg has this team pointed in the right direction. Can they keep it up this season and push for another conference title? Caleb, I believe you've gotten the chance to sit down with Coach Moberg in the past before. What do you make of the Mustangs this season?
Well,
obviously riding pretty high.
I got two big things. One of them touches on their quarterback situation. I'll save that for a little later, but an underrated defensive line duo that I've seen early on, just like going to some practices, is on this Mounds View team. Now, you think of D-line, and you think of Howie Johnson, you think of Afoya, you think of Olson on Stillwater, but these Essie brothers, these guys, one of them plays both ways for sure. That's Robert, but he's got a brother that's up and coming that I went to an Andover Mounds View scrimmage. Big fella and very disruptive. And I think I just wanted to highlight that because Section 4 is kind of like a D line, or at least that's kind of the lens that I see on it of like, okay, these a good D line section here. And Mounds View may not be at the top of the list when you think about that, but I would argue differently that they're right there with Forest Lake and Stillwater in regards to maybe not the front seven, but the front four for sure. And I think you'll see that. But going to the quarterback position a little bit more where I'm comfortable. Sampson left after having a tremendous year leading Mounds View to an even better year. But now you kind of have this him graduating and talking to a couple people and looking at some of their scrimmages. Beckham Wheelers looks to be the guy that's going to be slotted in there to be the starting quarterback for this Mounds View team. And he's going to come in there with high expectations, not only from last year, but in seeing and talking to people about what talent he has to bring to this Mounds View team. His talent is different than Sampson. He's less of a dual threat quarterback than Sampson, but like accuracy wise and decision making wise, he's up there. He actually cracked my top 10 like preseason quarterback rankings. I got him at number 10 in 6A. And I've heard really good things about this guy. And now like it's scary because he's got no varsity film that I can like pull from. So putting him over some guys that do have varsity film, it's a little scary for me. But in the people I've talked to, the film I've seen, not only like recording, but just watching him, he throws a really good ball, really accurate. And again, a different quarterback than Sampson, but I think he's going to be really good for Mounds View, and that's why I have him in my top 10 rankings. But back-to-back good years for Mounds View. I don't know. We'll see.
Ooh.
Coach Lance, your perspective on the Mustangs this season?
So we don't need to talk about how many hours either on Huddle or YouTube I've invested in the Mounds View Mustangs up to this point between
sure.
February and now. It's actually funny you mentioned, Caleb. If you do want to see, there's one JV game of Mr. Wheeler up on YouTube on the Mounds View streaming site. It's them playing Eastridge. Okay. Looks like a pretty good pocket passer, but like you said, totally different kind of quarterback. I'll get to him in a second. Right. First, I got to give tons of props to both Coach Moberg and Coach Calistro doing the defense up at Mounds View. They're one of the smallest enrollment-wise schools in 6A. And I mean, they can hang up there with some of the best. I mean, they beat Prior Lake last season in the playoffs. They went down to the wire with a really good Shakopee team. Like, Mounds View's defense is legit. I think the thing that put them over the, like, kind of over the hump this last season, and kind of as Caleb alluded to, was Jacob Sampson. I'd argue he was probably the most underrated quarterback in the state of Minnesota last season. I mean, he was just the heart and soul of Mounds View's offense. If they needed to get something done, he can fake it off to Mitchell Olsen, run quarterback GH counter. He's absolutely lethal on the speed option. He could run counter tray reads. So much of Mounds View's offense came to life, especially after their week 1 hiccup loss to Farmington. They just unleashed Jacob Sampson, and he got it done. But that's a dual threat quarterback archetype. What are you going to do now that you've got Mr. Wheeler as a quarterback? He's more of a pocket passer. You take away Mounds View's speed option and their quarterback GH counter. Now, what are we looking at? A lot of bubbles, going to hit us with tunnel screens, backside hitches, hitch and go double moves, stuff like that.
I feel like Godson Rufus Okamonru was not, and I haven't been able to see him like play first person. Mm-hmm. He was injured the week that I went to 2 Mounds View things. So, I haven't been able to see him up close, but like the huddle film, like speaks for itself. Like this dude, and I think you can use this guy in like multiple ways. Like he's not just, like a receiver you just put out there, but like they can use him in the backfield. They can use him as like an outlet to, it's going to look different, but I feel like he's kind of be the bridge to what like Sampson did do, like what Wheeler can't. I think from my perspective, that should be where Okamonru comes in to fill that burden in to keep this Mustang team rolling.
I like the way you think, Caleb. There's a reason that Coach Lance has been increasing his Wildcat formation film in these recent weeks, because I came to that same conclusion. I'm sure Coach Woodley over at Mounds View is probably thinking something similar. So, if they'd like to put that stud athlete in the backfield or in a Wildcat formation, we'll be ready for it. If they line him up at receiver, we'll be ready to take him there. And like I said earlier, we got a tough game week 1 against Mounds View. We got to get ready for these Mustangs. They made a lot of big statement wins last season, and they're a very respectable program. So excited to get the opportunity to match up with them.
Yeah, good background there. On the
Melberg's
also
a great coach. Sorry to cut you off, but like, seeing him up close and stuff like that, like working with the D line and stuff like that, like he gets after his players, but like I think every player knows like how good of a dude he is and how good of a coach he is, and like he has a lot of respect in that locker room, and I really feel like the 2024 season was kind of like a manifestation of that, of them like really coming together and having that good of a season. I was kind of writing this team off going into the season until I got to see them like this summer, just because like Sampson was a huge part of their team last year. And that was kind of where I was of like, from my perspective, I'm a quarterback guy. So like if a quarterback leaves, I'm like, okay, what's going on with the team? And they're probably going to regress. But I don't think that might be the case for this Mounds View team. Although like Forest Lake is hoping it is, right? Like Mounds View's given Forest Lake fits, and I think the more I look at this Mounds View team, the more ready I am for them to kind of return to what they did do last season and not take a step back.
Yeah, a lot of respect for Coach Moberg over there. I think he told me, Caleb, he's like a strong Christian, like really good dude, and definitely got this team pointed in the right direction. So
he knows how to get it done on D-line. Mounds View's got like one of the nastiest D-line shifts in all of 6A. You'll see all 3 of their down linemen like line up, and then they all shift over in unison. They got so many false start penalties from their opponents doing that. Like I know Farmington had at least like 4 of them week 1. He knows how to get it done. Very dangerous coach for sure.
Yeah, team to watch in this section for sure. I'm looking at Twitter right now, and I'm seeing that Prep Red Zone had Beckham Wheeler, the incoming quarterback, listed as one of the 5 diamonds in the rough for this next season. So interesting. They also have him listed at 6'5" and 205
He's
pounds.
tall.
I did not realize how big he is.
No, he's tall. He's big. Yeah.
Right behind him, recording him at 7-on-7. He's big.
He's a big dude.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting to watch, the show that they put on the field this fall. All right, halfway through Section 4, we got 4 teams left here. We're going to go out to White Bear Lake. The Bears finished 3-6 last year. They're looking to build more than just a new stadium for this upcoming season. Do they have the potential to compete in this section? How do they stack up against opposing teams would be my question for you guys. I mean, being in this section, being from Forest Lake, like I know of White Bear Lake, but I don't know too much about their personnel or anything like that, to be honest. So I'm interested to see what your take on this team, Caleb.
I remember watching Tommy Animason play Forest Lake his sophomore year, and it's like he kind of flashed. And although White Bear like lost that game, I came away from that game 2 years ago thinking like, okay, this guy has something, and he's doing this as a sophomore at the varsity level.
That was the game where they had like some injuries and he got the varsity start in the OR game in Forest Lake.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That was the quarterback then. That's interesting.
And he impressed me, although the score didn't turn out the way that it liked. And I've only been to like a couple White Bears since. One was not a good showing, Mounds View last year, where like the Bear offense struggled pretty mightily. But Tommy Animason, this is going to be his third year really getting reps as a quarterback. And like it's the game's going to be slower for him. Now, is he going to have the personnel and the O-line to block and let the game slow down for him? That's to be questioned. But I think Tommy Animason's a solid quarterback that has been the starter of a 3-6 team that hasn't been able to like showcase as much as he can, just based on what's happening. And it's also a matter of like what teams they're playing as well. They got to play against a lot of good D linemen that are going to eat offenses up and make offenses that maybe could be like mediocre and stuff like that in like average, below average. And I think that's kind of what we've seen. Will White Bear be able to have a chance to I wouldn't call them a contender in this section, but I think maybe if you take them lightly, they could surprise one of those like top 4, top 3 schools that we think are going to come out of this section and give them a run. Especially I believe like any team is dangerous with a 3-year starting quarterback, no matter like what that is, what that entails. And I don't think White Bear is an exception. My challenge seems a little bit more harsh than what I've like let on, like get more than 3 wins, but that's what they've been stuck at. And like when I look at like at their schedule, I kind of peg them for 3 wins. And now it's a matter of like, are you gonna like kind of stun one of those top teams in Section 4 and get over that hump of 4 and give you momentum going into the future?
They could potentially start off 3-0 looking at this schedule if they play well in that opening game against Farmington.
A little bit nicer non-section games than Mounds View and Stillwater got. Instead of Maple Grove, Lakeville South, and Shakopee, you get Eagan Rapids and Farmington.
Yeah. Yeah, and will this be, Coach Lance, you or Caleb, maybe you guys know, will this be their first official season in their new stadium? I wasn't totally sure on when construction ended.
I'm confused on what's going on. I know their high school is like beautiful. Like I've been in it. They're like the whole and I think they did move like, and I'm pretty sure like I know I saw a JV film of somebody and they were playing at the new field is what it looked like. And from what I've heard, they did. Okay. I could be wrong.
I know they were building a new stadium. I've heard really good things about it. So,
dude, their facilities insane. They had. I want to go to one of the Monday 7-on-7s, but I was like going to the fields and I looked at. They got like a practice field. They got the turf field. I went there. I was like, nope. All right, must have been like a different school. And then they got like 2 or 3 more turf practice fields like behind the high school. And I'm like, what is going on in White Bear? Unbelievable. I don't know like how much money that costed, but like dang, that's got to be like one of the top in state, top 5 at least.
White Bear Lake Boosters getting it done. There we go.
Coach Lance, your take on the Bears this upcoming season?
Oh, boy. All right. I don't think this is as much of a hot take. I'm going to say White Bear Lake is like the Champlain Park of the Metro East. It feels like they kind of hover at or below 500, and then they win games they shouldn't, and they also lose games they shouldn't. Like, I think 2023 Champlain Park Rebels, they upset defending state champion Maple Grove, but then they also lose to Coon Rapids. I like White Bears pretty much the same thing. Like 2023, they had an insane like upset win over Eastridge, but then they turn around and they only beat Roseville by 3 points. So it's like, and even this past season, like they lose. I mean, they have some pretty close games, but then they turn around and they upset Stillwater, like after running inside zone on the Ponies 60 times a game. I really just don't know what to make of the White Bear Lake Bears. It's like they could either be really hot or they could just not be. I mean, if you look at some of their stats, if they give up less than 17 points a game, they're always winning the game. But if they give up 28 plus, they're always going to lose. And there's like no in between. It's either our opponent doesn't score at all or our opponent completely runs over us. Like it's definitely really weird.
They lost to Woodbury. They lost to Woodbury last season.
That
right. Score was 13-28. And then they lost Eastridge by 8 points. And if anybody saw the Woodbury Eastridge game, you would know that makes absolutely no sense, because how do you
blow out a TCO?
It's a wild card. I would agree.
Yeah, it just the Bears definitely, and I mean, like Lakeville South's only ever played White Bear once in our school's history. It was the second round of the playoffs in 2022. So we've never really had much exposure to them. I guess the only other thing, I think Caleb might have mentioned this to me a while ago. White Bear Lake is getting a new offense this season. It's going to be more akin to Forest Lake.
And I've wanted to go like see it, because that is what I heard, and the coach's movements, kind of like you would figure that. But I think I didn't make it out on Monday to one of their 7-on-7s, but I think like me confirming that is actually going to be, because I haven't like confirmed it yet, but hopefully next Monday I get out to one of theirs and kind of see White Bear in action for the first time this summer. But yeah, I'm expecting a little bit of an offensive change, and who knows what that's going to bring for a team that went 3-6 the past 2 seasons. You think that like a scheme change for like the first year, it can be rough, but it can also be like a jolt of energy and something new that the kids really buy into, and it can be a success. So you also see stories of like, you see both sides of that. So it'll be interesting to see where White Bear takes that kind of shift in scheme, if it is true, and how they benefit from it.
For sure. Favorable schedule. They can run the table if they choose to. I guess we'll see.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, taking this thing over to Roseville, we're going to take a look at the Raiders. They're entering 2025 after 3-6 finish last year. They're losing their running back, Javon Miner, who was a huge part of their offense last season as he ran for over 1,000 yards. There'll be another team that will compete in the Maroon Division, 1 out of 2 in this section, as Coach Lance alluded to. What's the projection for the Raiders this fall? Where do you guys see them falling? Can we get a few nice wins in the Maroon District this year?
I had them best of the worst last season. And I think we kind of talked about this in part 1 of like, we thought Hopkins maybe arrived, and then Roseville was like, like we're going to just run over you and show you that you're not there yet, even though Roseville, like they were 3-6 last year. So it wasn't like they were a good team. Now that kind of shows that they're not all the way down there necessarily, is what I'm predicting. But like, it's going to be hard to have a worse offensive season than what they had last season. And I think they do have like a favorable schedule, and like Woodbury, Eastview, Hopkins, Park, Coon Rapids. Like that's a lot of like meat on the bone for Roseville to eat. Now, like are any of the top teams gonna be looking at Roseville any differently? I don't think so. I think like every top team is going into a Roseville week being like, wait, like we don't even got to practice, and that's just kind of like the thing that's kind of like hovering over this program. But they were a team I got to watch at a 7-on-7, and you know, like their scheme isn't meant for 7-on-7, so you can't get like a full grasp of what they have to offer. But like they got talent, and I could see with their schedule them like having a similar year to last, or maybe even one more win. Although like it might seem surprising on the edge when you take a look at their schedule and be like, it wouldn't be insane for them to do that by the end of the year. So yeah.
Coach Lance, will pass the mic to you.
Definitely. So going off of offense, Caleb, from what I've seen of Roseville film, I've seen like at least just last season, looking at it in a vacuum, I saw a bunch of different styles of offense, like not to the extent of like a Prior Lake, Rosemount, or STMA, but I did see they had some spread stuff. They got their flex bone stuff, and then they did some I formation stuff. So I was kind of getting the vibe like, all right, like pick one of them. Because if you think about a lot of the other Maroon teams, they're all like spread offenses, pretty pass happy. If you mix Roseville in there, just chewing up time of possession and pounding the crap out of them, I think the Raiders can make it very interesting if they commit to that. Yeah, and you know what? Speaking of their offense, did they change offensive coordinators mid-season last year? Because like there's a pretty noticeable difference. Like weeks 1 and 2, they lost to Woodbury and Eastview. They scored 10 points and 6 points in those 2 games respectively. And then after that, they just kind of popped off. It's like 23, 21, 24. And then they somehow exploded for 55 against Hopkins. Like,
well, Hopkins didn't have much of a defense last year. I think Park hung 60 on them as well.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, just thinking about matchup-wise, a 4-2 flex nickel package isn't exactly what you want to run into a flex bone. So I guess there is that too. But, yeah, I don't know. I think if Roseville does sharpen up their offense a little bit and just stick with a flex bone, maybe they can do what Rosemount did. Go take a trip down to Harding University, just really learn the flex bone inside and out, bring that energy back to Minnesota. We might be seeing Roseville rebuilding here. Maybe they won't be a Maroon team in a few years if they commit to that.
Yeah, I remember Roseville being in one of the state games, like when I was younger. I remember that. Roseville was like one of the good teams in Minnesota. And that was kind of like, it's kind of talking about like what we talked about before, like all these programs have like ups and downs of where they are, like the cream of the crop, and then they have their 0-9 season in 2021. You know, like it's kind of a thing in high school football that you got to navigate.
Yeah, we're definitely hoping that Roseville gets back to that state. So, I mean, we've been there before in programs in the past. So, like, props to Roseville. Keep working. All right, here. We got 2 more teams left here in Section 4. We're going over to Park of Cottage Grove. They're coming off a 2-7 season. And kind of the same thing with Roseville. They've been a struggling program in recent years. They'll be playing in the Maroon District. They haven't had a winning season since 2017. What do you guys make of Park's outlook here for fall 2025?
Miss Size was a good quarterback. I think it's like the White Bear situation where you can have a good quarterback on not such a good team, and kind of have that just be the case. I think it's Erickson, I think I want to say his name is. It's going to be the quarterback for him this year. And we'll see where that takes him. I think like this is a 2-win team at the end of the season. Like I could see him having pretty much a same record. Now 500 teams a little aggressive if we want to go there. But I like to be a glass half full guy. 500's very aggressive. Just looking at like the schedule, I'd say like Eastview, yes, winnable. And then like I think Roseville would probably get them. But like a Coon Rapids or even like a Hopkins off week, I think they're gonna go undefeated. But like the thing is, like, where's Hopkins gonna be at? I think they're gonna be probably a tier above Park. So like realistically, I could see them having a pretty similar record to what they had last year.
Yeah, I like the schedule for them. I think, yeah, there's a world where Park goes 500 this upcoming season, and I think, yeah, it's obviously like you alluded to, Coach Lance. Park and Roseville, they're going to get the 7 and the 8 seeds in the section automatically. So that week 7 game against Roseville per Park is going to be really key.
That's a big one. I mean, that determines whether you get to go play a 2 seed or whether you got to go play a 1 seed, which most likely is going to be the 1 seed out of Section 3 or Section 6, just looking at the brackets. Based on Caleb's picks, that would be a trip to either Shakopee or to Minnetonka. So
I don't want to be making those trips.
Yeah, there's a few implications over that week 7 game. Yikes. But no, I got to give some props to Coach Frickland, one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He actually has a 150-page master's thesis that's online from Hamline University. I have not made my way through the entire thing, but it's a great read. If anyone out there wants to get better at coaching football, highly recommend. Good reading material.
What is it about?
It's how to rebuild a football program. And I mean, he goes into like the most intense detail. And he's a great defensive-minded guy, too. I think he was at St. Thomas Academy before he took over at Park. It's just absolutely.
You said like the one thing that I might be interested in reading. I thought it was going to be some random college degree that you could do, but that actually sounds interesting.
Yeah, props to him. That's super cool.
It's absolutely awesome to read. I didn't mention to him that I was reading his master's thesis when I first met him, but I guess he just found out now. Oops. But yeah, no, I know that Park's also changing up their offense this season. I think they have a decently favorable schedule, and they do have some talent out there. I think that there's no question that they have the skill players. I think it's always been just kind of a question in the trenches with Park Cottage Grove. I mean, if you look at kind of the rest of their schedule, you guys were alluding to these other Section 4 teams, like Stillwater's going to have a great D-line. White Bear's going to be physical. Obviously, the Rangers have Howie Johnson and the Ranger Wrecking Crew, so not exactly easy first 3 outs for Forest Lake. And then Wyzetta, Coach Brown, very smart offensive coach. They have one of the nastiest inside zones in all of Minnesota. To get to 500, they'd have to pretty much go 4-0 in the Metro Maroon, which definitely is possible, but I'm sure
if you're making a case for 500, got some intel. 9 starters are back on defense. The 2 corners are gone. Okay. A new scheme change could shake things up a little bit. And when you try to piece together this 500 record, those last 3 games are like their most winnable. And then to get to 500, you only got to get one of White Bear and Hopkins. That's not even like touching any of the bigger dogs that we think are projecting to be like better. But I mean, is it crazy? Like I would give them more of a chance against White Bear than I would Hopkins. I know I'm higher on Hopkins than most, but like 4-4 would be like a really good season, especially with the quarterback, his first year starting as a junior, and the first year of a new scheme change. It could be interesting.
3-3. All right, you know what? I was actually wrong earlier when I said that the loser would have a date with Minnetonka. So it's 50-50 across the 4 brackets. 2 of the brackets would have the 8th seed of Section 4 going to, as Caleb said, Shakopee, the supposed winner of Section 3. And then the other 2 brackets would have them going to the winner of Section 5, which, whether that's Andover, Centennial, whoever comes out of that top bracket. So, I mean, either way, it's pretty rough round 1 for Park of Cottage Grove.
Yeah, but if they can get that 7 seed, I mean, playing the in a section like Section 5, playing the 1 seed versus the 2 seed could be a big deal over there. Obviously, it's going to be tough sledding either way, but
definitely.
Awesome. All right. Well, any more comments on Park Cottage Grove? Otherwise, we can move into wrapping up this podcast with the last team to cover here in all of 6A.
Let's get on to Woodbury.
All right. Yep, we're talking about Woodbury. It was a 2-7 season last year for the Royals. Their team that's been on the downside. I was looking at their past records. It's interesting. In 2021, they were 9-2. 22, they were 7-3, and in 2023, they were 5-5. And like I said, a 2-7 season last year. So my question for you guys would be: can Woodbury right the ship here in 2025, and do we expect them to?
I think the ship has already been unwritten. I don't know how to say that, but it's kind of, the ship has been lost, so to speak. My thing was, I see a trend, and I hope I'm wrong. You kind of talked about it: 9-2, 7-3, 5-5, 2-7. If we just want to, be mathematicians here and look at trends and let that trend educate us. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong on that. I don't have to do the projection for you. You can see what that is. I don't want to put any bad juju out there. But like, I grew up with like Woodbury, like, being good and stuff like that. Like, they were a feared team of like, you're going to play Woodbury, you're going to play like a big team that you're not going to want to play. And then I feel like they've kind of just gotten ran over, especially like last season, to where they were one of the worst teams in 6A. I didn't like to see it. The third lowest scoring output, defense not much better. Just overall rough sledding, and like the schedule doesn't do them any favors. If I were to guess, like, best case scenario, like, you could match what you had last year, but like, their schedule is super tough to try to put any sort of like improvement up. Is it possible? Yes, because I know they were a bit younger last season, so like these natural progression and improvement. But if somebody's trying to sell me stock on Woodbury, I'm like, I don't want it yet.
You're selling, you're not buying?
Yeah, no, I'm staying.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that schedule, Woodbury better be ready for week 1, because that's the easiest game on the schedule. So, and it's the all the rest of them from Woodbury standards. I feel like it's gonna be it won't be easy for sure. Coach Lance, your thoughts on the Royals this season?
I'm just looking at those 2 stats in the white text that Caleb has up there. So they were one of 3 teams in 6A that really gave up more than 330 points. The other 2 were Burnsville and Coon Rapids, right?
Good guesses.
I'm like 90% certain it's Burnsville and Coon Rapids. It's probably not the company of defenses you want to be in. And then, third lowest scoring output. That, funny enough, that puts them right there with Burnsville and Coon Rapids again. I don't know what to make of. I think Woodbury, I've heard they were just a young team last season. Because Coach Hill's been there for quite a long time, since like 2010. I think he's one of the longest tenured coaches in 6A. I think he took over right after. Yeah, didn't he take over right after Coach LeBoer? You just mentioned that when he went to Stillwater. Yep. So
he's been there a while.
Yeah.
In my rankings, I actually didn't incorporate Burnsville into the rankings because they went down.
Oh. STMA is the other one?
The 30th is Coon Rapids. We're talking about points allowed, right?
Okay. We'll do points allowed first. That won't be STMA. STMA will be the lowest points scored.
Points allowed, Coon Rapids coming in at 413.
And then Hopkins
404. And Woodbury 331.
Dang. Do you have the lowest
trivia
scoring?
question? What's the next one?
Oh, after Woodbury that was giving up a lot of points. Oh, who else gave up a lot of points? Eastview really didn't. Was it Park Cottage Grove?
You listed both of the teams that were the next slot up. Osseo was in between those teams coming in at 325. Yeah, I got the offensive rankings for points for. Would you like to take a gander? I know this is getting off a little bit, but this is also
for sure. Might as well test my knowledge. I'm putting Coon Rapids and STMA up in the spotlight there. I think those might be the next two teams.
Wow. Given STMA the business, Coon Rapids coming in with 50 points scored last season total.
Wow.
Eastview would be next at 103.
Forgot about the Lightning.
White Bear would be 122. Roseville 142. Rogers 149. Rosemount 151. Then STMA. Actually, my bad. Not a different WB. Woodbury was 122. White Bear Lake was up at 23rd out of 30 teams.
You know what? It's funny as you were going through a bunch of those teams, I'm just thinking like, okay, like you got a lot of teams there that don't have an offensive identity necessarily. It's kind of noticing a trend with that.
Good observation.
Yeah, I mean, like as far as Woodbury goes next season, from the little film I've seen on them, I'm pretty sure they're like 10, 11 personnel, spread offense, a lot of inside zone. I'm assuming they probably run some GH counter, just like a lot of teams. I mean, that's kind of the meta right now. So many teams in 6A run that. But I guess we'll see. If they truly were a young team last year and they're returning a lot of starters, then they'll probably have some experience under their belt. And I mean, the schedule sort of is favorable. At least Moorhead has to come to you this season. That's a bit of a plus week 2. I don't know. I guess on the bright side, they can't be a 7th or an 8th seed. The lowest seed they can be is a 6th seed. So I got that going for them.
That's a great point. Well, any other additional thoughts here, guys, with Woodbury? Otherwise, any closing statements for the entire podcast?
Okay, no, I want you to close it out. Yeah, no, I want you to close this out whenever it ends. So be ready for it. Mentally prepare yourself.
Sure. Sure.
I'm sure we're already going to get comments asking when the 5A team overviews are coming out.
We did say, like I'm gonna do some research and I'll try to give a player for each 5A team. And Coach Rancy, we're in 5A for a little bit. Hopefully you're a knowledgeable guy. You'll have some knowledge of a lot of teams. There are 43 teams in 5A, so it is a lot.
Maybe
but
some top dogs, even
for the sake of content, we can try it. Or there's a lot of things that. One of the things Coach Lance was doing was like community hot takes or whatever, just like not even hot takes, but just takes. And I think my one rule was going to be that you can't include yourself in it. Is that fair?
So
because like I'd put it out and be like, Caleb Costa is going to be Caleb Costa is going to be the top quarterback in the state. It's like, no, you can't use yourself. That's you have to do it on like somebody, just because that's what everybody's going to say. So I think that stipulation is going to be in there, but yeah, that's definitely going to be something.
I wonder if you get more interesting takes too if you like filtered out like teammates as well. Like you can't say anything about teammates. I don't know. That might be a little tough, but like it could be interesting. Everybody's. I know all the Forest Lake kids are just they're gonna say stuff about
Jerkovich, 2,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, they're gonna just say stuff about Forest Lake kids, but
the more we say that it can't be your team, the more aggressive it's gonna get. We'll see. Maybe I trust high schoolers.
It's gotta be positive,
right? No,
we've already tore into. Like Park
into
Eastview.
No,
like.
We don't turn any programs. STMA. All these, like we talked about, these we're not tearing into anybody. We're just giving our opinions, and you don't even it's just our opinions. Like we don't. I bet there's somebody that think Forest Lake's a bad team. Probably somebody from White Bear Lake because we hate each other. Does that make his opinion invalid? No, it doesn't. But it's just something to think about. The more content, the better.
For sure, yeah. I think it goes without saying that we obviously have respect for like all the programs in 6A. I mean, how many of the coaches we talked about were like, oh yeah, great guy. Oh yeah, this guy, great culture builder, rebuilding programs. Like when we notice things like Caleb said, it's just like observations. Like, hey, maybe here's something they could do to improve, or maybe something that's holding them back. Like,
I'm just not about the whole faking stuff because I feel like, and I watch these high school state broadcasts. This is a little rant. But they go to these Care 11 guys, not talking bad about them, but it's in their like, it's kind of in their license that they can't talk bad about like any programs, and it's like, oh yeah, and it's like a team just got absolutely throttled in the championship game, and they like have to say 3 good things that they did that game, and that they should be, just keep their heads up, and just like all like the cliche things, and it's like you can call a spade and just say that they kind of got their butt kicked a little bit, and it was a bad showing, because there was one game where it was like one of my favorite quarterbacks, one of the best quarterbacks in 6A, Caden Harney. I think it was like the semifinal game that he like really struggled, and he had a very like uncharacteristically bad game. And I'm like,
we talked about it on a preview podcast,
right? Like
good Shakopee
that's
defense, Coach Bettman.
Exactly. That's like something that like happens, and like you need to talk about that because like that was a part of them getting to state. And I'm sure if Harney has like success, that's a part of his like rise to being a good quarterback, is like the dips and falls that players, and not only players but programs and coaches have in their coaching, playing, and just like program history that happen. So not to like, put Caden Harney on the spot or anything, but that was just like one example that I remember off the top of my head that was like really big that,
No, I'm with you there, Caleb. Totally. I just giving the fans and high schoolers free reign. Just all I was thinking about, but
yeah, no, and I mean, you can learn so much from like miscues or failures like that. Like I was watching Lakeville South versus Eagan 2023, and I was like, oh, they absolutely killed us on a few outside veers, and I didn't think much of it at the time. But then you get to the state semis against Centennial, and they killed us with outside veer at the goal line. I mean, Dalen Cummings just absolutely torched us, and I was like, oh, wow, I failed to notice that in week 4, whenever that game was, and then it came back to bite us at the bank. So I mean, you got to be able to recognize stuff like that and be like, all right, I messed up. That's an area of improvement for me. And that's kind of how I view all this stuff.
Totally. I just want to thank all the viewers for tuning in to our preview of all the 6A teams here in Minnesota. We're wishing all the teams best of luck this coming fall. And stay tuned for more content as we lead up to that last weekend in August. But thank you guys once again for joining and sharing your takes tonight. And we're signing off.